Hello everyone and welcome back to 3D Drawing for Model Railway. For today's lesson I'd go back and revisit the Lowmac model that we did a couple of weeks ago. I've done a couple of test prints and made some changes, and I thought I'd let you all know what those changes are so that if you wanted to do this model yourself you can do that. Okay, so the biggest issue that I had was around clearances for a wheel inside the wheel arch here. So I've made a few changes within here to be able to get the wheel to fit in there appropriately, and then obviously you can then use a smaller wheel if you want to. I've got a 6.1 millimeter wheel, but a 5.1 millimeter will give you that little bit extra room here, which would work better for you. Okay, so first thing we're going to look at is the hole here for the axle. So if we come into the sketch, edit the sketch, I'll show you what I've done. So I've reduced the diameter of the circle to 1.5 millimeters, or changed it to 1.5 millimeters. There was just a little bit too much slop in there, a bit too much movement. So I've just reduced that a little bit to give it a little bit tighter. I've also lowered the height of the center point of that circle to 1.5 millimeters to bring it down a little bit, so there's a bit more clearance at the top here for the wheel. Okay, the next thing that we can look at is this sketch here. Come on. Yeah, that sketch here. So what I've done here is I've drawn like a cutout area here with a wall thickness of 0.4 millimeters for the upper and the parallel area here, and just give myself enough room here. I've not defined these distances here, but if you have a look, there's what 1 millimeter on the end there, and distance from there to there 4.2 millimeters. Okay, so that'll give you some area of where I've cut out. Now that cutout, as you can see, I've left the centerpiece here, so there's a bit of strength down the middle, and taken that all the way back to the back of the wheel arch. Okay. The next thing I did was on the axle box, I just lowered everything on this bottom surface down by 0.2 millimeters, just because I've moved the center point of the axle hole down a little bit. I've brought this down by 0.2 millimeters to match it. So that benefit from doing that has allowed us to have, as I say, that little extra space up here for the wheel. Obviously, if you've got a 5.1 millimeter axle, that would work just as well. I've got a 6.1 in there at the moment, and that lines up the buffers perfectly to a Pico chassis. So I'm happy with those changes around the wheel arch area. The next change that I made was I became aware of a photograph that shows the top surface of the deck here much better. And when we originally drew it, we drew rows of plank and then another row of plank and then another row of plank on the other side. I became aware of this photo that these planks go all the way across, so it's just this top diagonal beam that's separated into three. So I just dragged off of the extrusion all the way to the center point there. That then enabled the planks to be all the way across. One thing that I did have to do when I did that was the pattern that goes the center planks here on the two sides also went all the way across the bottom. So I had to go and switch off each of the planks on the bottom. So you just go into the pattern here, edit the feature, and then just turned off all these ticks across the center planking. And that, as I say, gives us the wooden planking all the way across. It's just these two diagonals, looking at the photos, that have this planking separated into three. Okay, so that wagon there is printable as it is. The next thing that I want to do is looking at couplings. Now, got two choices really. You can either fit a Pico LC coupling in there. The problem with the Pico LC is although the coupling works absolutely fine, is it's just going to require an extra like pad here, so that the coupling's got a mounting point. I'm tempted to actually try drawing a coupling myself, which I think I might give a go at. I'm going to draw a printed coupling, and if it snaps off because it's too brittle during running situations, then I can just replace it with an LC coupling in the future. I do think there is enough room there for me to draw a coupling in there, but other than that, the printed model has come out really well. I'm looking forward to getting this painted and then getting it running on the layout. Okay, so now I'm going to have a go at drawing this coupling. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to scroll back the history to come back past the mirror, so we're just left with one end, and then obviously when we have to draw it the once then. So the first thing we do is we're going to create a sketch on this bottom surface, and I'm going to draw a rectangle, have it in line here. I'm going to do it 2mm by 4mm, and that should give us enough room here for axle play. Define distance from there to there is 5.3mm, and we can extrude this down or up, whichever way you're looking at it, 3mm. Okay, so now we've got our down member here. Next thing we'll do is we'll draw on the front here, and we can draw a square 2 by 2, and that needs to come forwards by 3mm to the back of where the coupler would be, which is going to be, if we look side on, roughly in line with where the buffers are, which is what I was expecting there. Okay, so now we'll draw the back on here. So we're going to create a sketch on this face. I'm going to be using the 2mm. I'm probably going to come slightly higher than this 2mm as well. We're going to go for center point rectangle. Find the center point of this. The width needs to be 6.3mm to a standard coupler, and they're 2.5 tall. And then if we select that, we can extrude that forwards by just the 1mm. Okay, so the next thing is we need to create the side of the arm here. So we'll create a rectangle on this edge, and it needs to be on, oh no, escape that one. That needs to be 2.5, 1.2mm thick, and the total width is 5.75, plus we've got a millimetre on the back here, so 4.75. We're going to extrude that. So 4.75 forwards. Okay, so the next thing is we draw a rectangle on here. Do we need a rectangle? No, we don't. We're going to have a line at the top here that's going to come down to the midpoint, and then from the midpoint in line with that, to find the distance from there to there. That's 2mm, and that'll be the same there to there, 2mm. And then we need to have a line that comes down like that, and then extrude that forwards. And just check the calipers. 3.75mm. Actually, minus 1.2, so minus 1.2mm. Okay, so now we've got that. Okay, and then the last thing we need really is to draw on this back plane here. Let's have a look. We want a rectangle that goes down there. And 0.4mm. This should give us, extrude this forwards 0.5mm. No. There. And then have a look at this. Yep. So that's given us what looks roughly like a typical N-gauge coupling. If you wanted to make it a little bit stronger, you put a bit more bracing in here, but that should give us a coupling. We should just be able to go back across. Oh, there's an issue. Okay, so when we've mirrored, what it's done is it's copied exactly as is across. So what can we do? So this coupling is the one way around. So if we come back, what can we do? What can we do? Right, so if we go to split body to split, splitting, no, wait a minute, cancel that. If we come back in the history, come to that extrusion there, edit the feature. If we tell that to be a new body, then what we should have is that coupler, yes. So now if we come forwards in the history, we don't have that on the other end, but we can copy that body create copy, that's what we want. And then we can bring this down here. Let's look at the top. We need to rotate it to 180. And if we turn around and have a look at them, let's have a look this side. So if we now do point to point, we can tell that point to be in that corner. Okay, so now we've got them two different ways round. We can then jump all the way to the end of the sketch history. Everything then comes right. We can put a combine in there. Combine the main body with the two couplings. Okay, so now we've got the couplings that we wanted. I think that's pretty much there now. So I hope you've enjoyed that episode on how to hopefully finish off the Lowmac, and we've got a model of a wagon that's going to take us not much more than probably a couple of hours work to have drawn it.